Day was Thursday, September 17, 1964. It was a day eagerly awaited by the citizens of Sacramento, California. Some 8,000 of them waited at the municipal airport. Among them, the governor and Mrs. Brown, Dan Kimball, chairman of the board, Aerojet General Corporation, and Mrs. Kimball, a group of enthusiastic girls, identically clad in red, and many state and city officials. Thousands more thronged the streets and grounds around the state capitol. Still other thousands waited at the Sacramento plant of the Aerojet General Corporation. It began with the arrival of what is perhaps the most famous aircraft in the nation. This was Air Force One, arriving from the Pacific Northwest, bringing the most distinguished visitor the city of Sacramento has greeted in many a year, the President of the United States. The President, accompanied by Senator Salinger, was greeted by Governor and Mrs. Brown and their youngest daughter, Kathy. He continued his handshaking routine down the reception line, which included Sacramento's Mayor McKinney, Fred Barberia, Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, and Jesse Unruh, State Assembly Speaker. Noticing the girls in red, the President walked over and talked to the L.B. Janes. Then, the President walked toward his car to begin his trip to the State Capitol building. But he did not reckon with the enthusiasm of the crowd. They wanted to shake hands with him. They wanted to talk to him. Some say it was nearly an hour after the arrival that the motorcade finally left the airport. There was another brief stop to allow the President to change to an open car for the trip down Freeport Boulevard. The first of several unscheduled stops occurred at Sacramento City College. To the delight of the crowd of students, the President shook hands with many of them. The crowds had been thick along the route, but at the Capitol, it was a madhouse. It was like nothing Sacramento had ever seen before. It took quite a while for the President to reach the platform which had been erected at the Capitol steps. Here, Governor Brown officially extended Sacramento's welcome to President Johnson, calling attention to the fact that this was the first visit of a chief executive in over 20 years. Then, to the roar of 50,000 citizens, the President stepped forward to begin his scheduled address. He told the world that the United States had developed a weapon system capable of intercepting and destroying bomb-carrying satellites in space. It was a stern warning of American strength, telling the world not to believe that there was division in the Union. In a strong voice, he told California that it is leading the way and that it should continue to lead the way. He said, many years ago, people searched here for gold. Today, we are seeking far more precious values: peace, justice, and decency for all mankind. As the President stepped down, the crowd enthusiastically surged toward him. It was almost frightening, and it certainly was the most anxious moment from a security standpoint during Lyndon B. Johnson's stay in Sacramento. Appeals to the crowd to step back finally restored order. And then it was lunch in the Capitol building with a small group of guests. Immediately following lunch, the motorcade proceeded toward Aerojet's Sacramento plant. The Rancho Cordova greeting sign could not be ignored, and another unscheduled stop resulted while Aerojet men and women patiently waited. The president was now considerably behind schedule. It was a warm day, and some of the ladies in waiting were trying to rest aching feet. A huge sign proclaimed, "Howdy, President Johnson." Everything was in readiness. And then, the big moment was at hand. The motorcade entered the access road and rapidly approached the gate. Cars filled with security personnel came first. Then the president, with Governor Brown and Senator Salinger, followed by press and White House photographers, and a fleet of buses filled with newsmen and the many special guests. There was a brief stop in front of the main administration building to allow the president to transfer from the limousine to an open car. Accompanied by Mr. Kimball, the president proceeded to the test area to witness a firing test of a Titan first-stage liquid rocket engine. Here, Aerojet officials waited to escort the president to the control room, where Mr. R.C. Stiff, a fellow Texan and vice president and manager liquid rocket operations, briefed the president on the propulsion system for the Titan family of missiles. A special television monitor was provided to allow better viewing of the test, which was conducted immediately following the briefing. The president watched intently as the big rocket engine performed flawlessly for the scheduled length of the test run. Mr. George Westcott, manager of the liquid test operations, explained certain aspects of the test to the president and Senator Salinger. Following the test, Mr. Westcott presented the president with an engineer's hat and appointed him honorary engineer. A special presentation by Major General Ben I. Funk followed. It was a leather-bound volume commemorating the president's visit to Aerojet. Proud onlookers included Mr. W.E. Zish, Aerojet General's president, Governor Brown, Board Chairman Dan Kimball, and the former associate of President Johnson, Wallace Ingle, now an Aerojet executive. The president then left the control room and, waving to test area personnel, he entered his car for the return trip to the administration area. Once again, a change to an open car was made in which the president rode toward the gate. According to schedule, the motorcade would proceed directly to Mather Air Force Base. But presidents have the power to change schedules, and they frequently do. It was a complete surprise when he ordered the car to stop, and for 10 minutes or more, mingled freely with the crowd, shaking hands and talking to them. His parting remark was, "The work you do here is appreciated by the nation, and I am proud of you." And so the visit to Aerojet's Sacramento plant was over. The motorcade left for the short trip to Mather Air Force Base. Another large crowd had gathered here to say, "Goodbye, Mr. President." The visit was short. It included a briefing on Mather's role within the Strategic Air Command. The president shook hands as he walked down a line of airmen, talking to them and their wives. And then, as he walked toward Air Force One, he invited the crowd to join him. It was a gesture typical of the day. Finally, the tall figure walked up the steps. There was a last wave of farewell, and then the president entered the plane and was gone. Yes, it had been quite a day. A day which would be long remembered as Lyndon B. Johnson's day in Sacramento.